Hello everyone, and welcome to another Arthritis Health Movement Improvement session. I'm Dr. Dave, and today we're going to be talking about mobilizing the entire spine from your neck all the way down to your hips. This is an exercise that I use to help people with everything from knee and hip pain to neck and shoulder pain. It incorporates a lot of breathing work and is really a fundamental and important skill to have for healthy moving. So today's session is going to be done completely lying on your back, really relaxing, really peaceful, and all you need is a pillow for comfort and maybe a pillow underneath your knees if you have a little trouble with full extension of the knees, and that's about it. So let's get started lying down on your back. Okay, so we're just going to take a moment to check in with ourselves and just let your body sink down into the surface. Let all the tension of the day just melt away. Feel how your body is supported by the floor underneath you. Get a sense of what parts of your body easily touch the surface and what parts of your body maybe don't touch the surface at all or kind of draw up or shy away from the surface some. And just get comfortable and quiet lying. Even if you have a 1 out of 10 pain, that is not acceptable right now. So you want to put a bolster under your knees or under your head or whatever makes you feel more pleasant. Get a sense of how your heels and calves touch the surface, how the backs of the knees and thighs maybe don't touch quite as easily, and then your backside and your hips and your waist. Feel the contact that they make or don't make. And then we're just going to check in with that mid-back. And mid-back's a little bit different for everybody. We all have contact in different places. Some people's shoulder blades poke in quite a bit into the floor. Other people's shoulder blades tuck away nicely. And just get a sense of where you are. No judgments, no concerns, just seeing what is, not worrying about what should be. And finally, see how heavy your head is into the surface. If you need a pillow to support your head, you don't want to be straining, you don't want your chin up in the air, you want to be nice and comfortable, level neck. Good, and from here, we're just going to bend the knees, and we're going to do a very simple pelvic rock. And so you're just going to flatten your pelvis and your low back down into the surface, and then you're going to rock back the other way and rise up off of the surface, both directions. So you're going to feel that there's almost no arch. We're flattening that low back down, and then we're going to raise the arch up and lift the back up. So now there's space underneath your back, and you're just going to get a feel that this is a rocking back and forth motion. That's the pelvis rolling backwards and pelvis rolling forwards. If you imagine that your pelvis was a big bucket of water with the top of the bucket facing the ceiling, when you rolled back, the water would spill out a little bit towards your belly. And when you roll forward, the water would spill out a little bit towards your feet. And you just want to get that easy feeling of rocking back and forth. And you want to move slowly and smoothly so that you can feel each vertebra from the lowest to the second lowest to the third lowest come down to the table or the surface of the floor, and then feel each one by one, pick up. We don't want to move in broad swaths. We want to move very segmentally, very individually. And take time. A lot of times we have tendencies to want to move kind of big pieces all together, so a whole bunch of the spine comes up. We're going to try to just disarticulate that a little bit and feel that we can move segment by segment. Each vertebra doing its own thing. Good. And then as we do this, we're gonna put our hands right on these low ribs, okay? Feel these low ribs here. And for a lot of us, these low ribs like to stay up in the air. And I see a lot of patients who move the pelvis, but the ribs don't ever come along for the ride. And our goal for today is gonna be to make the whole body move in harmony, in series, comfortably, slowly, and smoothly. And so you wanna feel that as you're rolling that pelvis back and flattening your back to the surface, that the ribs are dropping down or tucking down into your pelvis. And then as you roll away, those ribs are released and can rise up into the air. So they become very prominent. They should be very palpable. And then as they roll down, you can guide them with your fingers. Don't push them, but just guide them. Make a suggestion to them. Say, oh, you can come along this way. And feel that they flatten down. You might feel that your belly muscles get strong and engaged here. That's okay, a little bonus. And then as you tip the pelvis forward, those ribs strive up towards the ceiling. And you're gonna find that if we incorporate the breath into this movement, when we fully exhale, these ribs are gonna depress down a little bit more. So if you breathe out, and at the end of the exhale, you're gonna feel those ribs breathe out. So we're gonna do a full breath out. And feel how that flattens the back and flattens the ribs at the same time. And then on your inhale, feel how those ribs are released to raise up. And so we're just going to incorporate the rhythm of the pelvic rocking with the rhythm of our breath. Don't speed up your breath to get a whole bunch of reps in. Sometimes people, they start to hyperventilate, right? You're just going to have nice, relaxed breaths and feel that the movement of the pelvis just corresponds with the rhythm of quiet breathing. So breathe out and feel the pelvis roll back and the back flatten vertebra by vertebra. And then we breathe in, feel the ribs rise up, feel each segment of the vertebra of the low back rise up, and you feel that the tailbone gets a little bit more planted or pushed down into the table or the surface. Now we're just going to do a few of those, feeling for that nice rhythm together. Breath out to flatten. Breath in to raise the low back and tip the pelvis forward. Feel the ribs tuck into the belly, almost like you're trying to tuck them into your pants. On that breath out. And then breath in, those ribs rise to the ceiling. The low back rises to the ceiling. The pelvis tips forward, and you get a nice big arch in the back. Now, as we bring along more parts of the body for the ride here, as we incorporate the breathing and get more things working together, we should see if we get movement in other places. So what I want you to notice now, is there any movement in your head? Does your head move at all as you rock your pelvis back and forth? Do you get any movement through the head? So let's see. When we breathe out and flatten down, does the head move some? And as you breathe in and tip the pelvis forward and arch the back, does the head move at all? And for some of you, you'll say, yes, I can feel some head movement. And for others, you'll say, no, I feel nothing. My head is absolutely still when I do this. And both are okay. Wherever you are, whatever your natural inclination is, that is just fine. Your body has wisdom as to why it chose that decision. And we're just going to give suggestions to see if we can loosen things up to get more freedom of movement. I want you to feel, if you put the hands on your kind of chest and ribs, that as you breathe out and tuck the pelvis down, if you were to almost pull the chest down a little bit with your fingers, it will make the chin rise up and put more pressure towards the top of your head and have more space behind your neck. And then just come back and relax. We'll try that one more time. And as you flatten the back and tip the pelvis backwards and really dip those ribs down and lower the ribs, depress the ribs, there's this inclination for the chin to rise and there to be a lot of space behind the neck. And then we'll just come back and release. And feel that if you're allowing the ribs and chest to move, the head will want to come along for the ride. Every part of the body is connected to every other. So if one thing is moving, that should have a ripple effect all the way up the body. And it's not necessarily going to be a big dramatic movement, but there should be some perceptible amount of movement. Now on the other side, if we tip the pelvis forward and we start to arch the back and the ribs lift, you'll feel that the chin starts to drop down, the back of the neck starts to flatten down to the surface, and the neck elongates so the head becomes longer or further away. So here we're getting an arch in the low back, but a flattening of the neck. And as we reverse that and tip the pelvis back and flatten the back down, and most importantly, allow those ribs to depress, you'll feel that there's a little bit of a tipping or a raising of the chin and a lifting of the arch of the neck. And now we're gonna rock forward with the pelvis, arch the back. Feel that as the ribs lift and the back lifts, the neck falls. Don't allow your head to lift off of the pillow. Always let your head stay comfortably heavy, being supported by the surface. No lifting of the neck and head. Sometimes that's very tempting to do. So we arch the back and feel that that flattens down. And so I want you to see how the arch of the back and the arch of the neck are actually going to move in opposites. That when the arch rises up, the neck flattens down. And then when the back, low back arch flattens down, the neck arch rises up. So there's this kind of opposite corresponding amplitude with the curves of the neck and low back. Don't forget your breath. Move in harmony with your breathing. Breathe out to flatten the low back and lift the chin. And then breathe in to raise the low back and flatten the neck and drop the chin. Now, if this is getting confusing for you and you're losing the coordination between your neck and your head, try to move smaller and think about that we can think of this as a series of 3 or 4 different motions. The head moves, the chest moves, the ribs move, the pelvis move. Or it's one movement that has just this cohesive rhythm to it. It's actually one movement with a nice flow. We're trying to find that flow, and we kind of get it and lose it, but as we have it, everything just kind of moves harmoniously. So let's try again. We breathe out, flatten the low back, dip the ribs, chin lifts up. We tip the pelvis forward, we breathe in, the neck flattens, the chin comes down. Let's just do a few, moving with the rhythm, feeling the difference, the opposite movements of the neck and low back. And so when we're putting pressure in the spine in one direction with the low back, we're taking that pressure off in the other direction with the neck, and vice versa. It creates kind of a zero sum. If we didn't do that, we'd put a lot of tension and stress through the spine, which can be okay at times, but it's not what we're trying to do right now. Good, okay. Take a moment, straighten out the legs, just relax, get a sense of your body into the surface. And feel if you feel just a little bit more connected to the surface that you're on, a little bit more grounded, a little bit flatter. Do you feel as though maybe some of the areas before that were kind of really lifted off of the floor are a little closer to the floor, or maybe even touching? Do you feel maybe that those pokey shoulder blades are a little less pokey? For me, I can definitely feel a little bit of drop behind my thighs and knees, and a little bit more flatness from the arch of my low back, which is nice. I feel very connected to the surface. All right, very good. We're going to bend the knees once again. We're going to do the same series of motions, but we're just going to have a bit of a different thought process this time. And this time we're going to think about the rotation of the pelvis and the rotation of the head. And so we're going to think that when we're going to start with kind of a breath in, arch the low back, dip the chin. And so you're going to see that the pelvis is tipping forward. At the same time, the eyes and the head are tipping forward. So I'm looking at my knees as I'm arching my back. And then when I breathe out and I flatten the back, my pelvis tips backwards and my eyes look backwards and my head tips backwards. So now I'm looking at the wall, or in my case the window, behind me, overhead. And my belt buckle is looking in that same direction. So my nose and my belt buckle are actually going to move in harmony, same direction. So as I tip forward, the belt buckle looks down towards my knees and my eyes look down towards my knees. And as I breathe out and tip the pelvis backward, the belt buckle looks towards the wall overhead, and my eyes and nose look towards the wall overhead. And we see that we have this interesting relationship between the head and the pelvis, that they're moving at similar rates in similar directions. So let's just take a few repetitions to appreciate that as we move in harmony with the breathing. Breathe in, pelvis tips forward, head tips forward. Breathe out, pelvis tips back, head looks up. Breathe in, pelvis tips forward, chin drops, eyes look down toward the knees. Breathe out, pelvis tips back, low back flattens, eyes look overhead. Having the eyes move in the same direction, almost leading the head, is a very nice way to ease up head and neck movement. We're used to the eyes leading the head, so we want to make sure that our eyes don't stay fixed, but they're going to move with, almost to give a little nudge to the head to move. And as we go, feel that nice, soft, easy rhythm, and see if you can feel one continuous, fluid movement between the pelvis and the head, between the low back and the neck, feeling those ribs dip in and ribs lift up, and feeling the breath is in harmony with the entire movement, that we're moving at the pace of our breathing, not any faster or slower. I always find this to be peaceful, that when I find that zone where everything is kind of locked in and flowing together, there's just a quietness to the movement, to the effort, to my mind. It just kind of brings me to this nice centered place. Remember, don't try hard. Don't put yourself into pain. Don't force anything, all right? Rule number one, always be kind to yourself. Always be kind to yourself. So if you feel a spasm kicking in or a tension somewhere, you're trying too hard, you're doing too much, you're being undone by your own ambitions. We want to find this kind of ease and harmony, even if it's just a tiny movement. What if we made it so small that an outside observer wouldn't even know that anything was happening? Makes for not very exciting video, I suppose. But if you're inside your head, you can feel big movements even when you're making small movements. And relax. Very nice. Okay, we're going to up the difficulty level a little bit here. And if that was comfortable and fine for you, we're just going to straighten out your legs and again lie down and just check in with yourself. And feel that connection to the surface. And if that's all you did today, that would be great. But if you want to try something a little more challenging, we're going to do the same thing with the legs elongated. And that takes away the ability to use your leg muscles to move your pelvis, so you have to use your abdominals. So we're going to give that a try. And we're just going to, with the legs straightened out, flatten the back down, feel those ribs come in, feel how it moves the head up. And then release. Feel the breath come in, feel the pelvis tip forward, feel the back arch. And all of the same principles that we just learned are going to remain but I put an obstacle in front of you by position that you have to figure out how to overcome. So for some of you, as soon as you straightened out the legs, everything got tripped up. It's like you had to relearn all over again. And for others, you may still feel that same fluidity, and if that's you, yeah, kudos to you, that's fantastic. But if it's not, no worries. And so we're just going to find that all of the principles that we just learned with the knees up, they're still there with the knees down. We just have to figure out what muscles to use to find those same movements. So we're breathing out, pelvis rock back, back flattens down, ribs tuck in, chin lifts up, and we breathe in. Chin drops down, ribs lift up, back lifts up, pelvis tips forward. The belt buckle and the nose are still moving in the same directions, looking overhead, looking down towards the toes, back and forth together. The neck and the low back are still moving in opposite directions, that when the back rises up, the neck drops down. So there. And then when the back drops down, the neck rises up. And relax. Now, if that was difficult for you, it's very tempting to try to put more force and more effort, and that is always your undoing. The more we try, the harder we push, the worse things get often, because it doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of know-how and coordination. And so you want to look skilled and practiced, and you want to do less and have more ease. Okay, and we'll just do one more check-in and feel how nice and comfortably you are at the surface. Maybe if you feel a little bit more just at ease than you were before. If you needed 2 pillows under your head or a pillow under your knees, maybe you don't need them anymore, or maybe you just need a little bit less. Feel that you can feel the breath rising in and out of your body, and you can feel the ribs lift on the inhale and drop on the exhale. That the breaths become fuller. That actually with every breath, when those ribs rise up, the back rises up, and the head rocks, and the pelvis rocks. And with every breath out, the back actually flattens down a little bit, the chin lifts up a little bit. That each and every cycle of respiration is actually this same exact exercise if we don't impose any stiffness or any tension in the muscles, if we just let the body be. That moving in that sequence with that harmony allows for fuller, freer breathing. And when breathing is easier, everything is easier. Life is easier. Food tastes better. Music is sweeter. Okay. You can remain lying down if you'd like. I am going to sit up and fix my hair. And just in sitting, feeling that nice alignment, feeling how my body stacks on top of my spine, and that I feel comfortable and at ease, and feeling that my breaths are full on the inhale and full on the exhale. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank yourselves for taking the time, putting in the effort to doing this work. I know this one wasn't very physically intense, but it's mentally taxing, and it takes time and attention, and you did that today, and not everybody did, so really you should be proud for that fact. This is such a nice fundamental exercise. It's a good daily practice. It helps with the mind and the body and the breath. All right, I'll see you guys all next week with a whole new video teaching you how to move differently so you can feel better. Take care, everyone.